anyone who knows me knows that I'm constantly looking for ways to improve myself, particularly in my martial art. Okay, that being Krav Maga, Muay Thai, Wing Chun, and all the different martial arts and things that I do. Now, I also fight. I fight in Muay Thai, so I want to improve my performance there. And I'm 47 years old, so already people are like, "What? You're 47?" The other day, some guy was telling me, as you get older, you've got to, constantly push yourself and train. And he was giving me advice, and then he turns around and tells me he's 41. I'm like, dude, I'm 47. And he's like, what? So I'm super, super focused on doing stuff that most people won't do at this age. Not because I want to show people, that I'm the best, but because I want to show people that it's possible. And all of this stuff about losing it once you turn 30 something, or, not being in your peak, I think of that as rubbish. Now, obviously, there's a point where it's true, but I think the current standard is actually way lower than it should be. And I believe that at my age, 47, 57, you should be able to train well, fight if you want to, and ultimately improve your longevity. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing it as well. I'm constantly looking for ways to improve my ability as I get older. And I want to be the guy who's 100 years old and can lift himself up off the floor. So I spend a lot of time on the floor and, crossing my legs and so on, and trying to maintain mobility and do things that you should be able to do through your whole life. I think many people through life, you start in life being quite childish and playing and stuff, but as you get older, you get a little bit too serious and start sitting in chairs like this, and not sitting on the floor and doing basic things. So yeah. In my 20s, I was pretty much like Hercules. I didn't do much stretching. I was just constantly training hard. I was immortal in a way. In my 30s, it started to catch up with me, particularly around 37, 38. I was stiff as a board, and I was really injured. I'd spent my life doing hard, intense training, and I believe that I shortened my muscles and caused a lot of injuries, okay, and stiffness. At that time, capoeira was the only thing that saved me. I started doing capoeira. I called it the fountain of youth. And I believe it is. If you want dynamic ability, capoeira is something that's super valuable. But it also requires a fair bit of time and commitment. And as a martial artist who's focused in on what I do and Muay Thai and all the different stuff around it, I don't have a lot of time for it. I do try to incorporate, the Jenga and basic movements, Armada and different flows, but I just, yeah. When I was about 41, 42, maybe older, I started to do it less and do other things more, BJJ, Muay Thai, and other things. But yeah, come to 47 years old and I'm on the ground in the last couple of years. I'm crossing my legs and my hips are sore, my knees are sore. I'm noticing that over the last couple of years, I'm just getting a bit tighter and my body's starting to guard itself. Now, guarding comes from when you've caused injuries and things. I've had knee injuries, I've had ankle injuries, I've had hip injuries. So my body now, when I go to do something, not all the time, but sometimes when I go to do a kick or something like that, it's just like super, super tight and doesn't want to go. So those are some of the reasons why I decided to give it a shot. And I pretty much came to this point where it's like, man, you can stretch all you like, you can do dynamic, passive stretches. At least I'm talking for myself. But I felt like I'm just doing the same thing every single day and expecting a different result. And I figured now's the time. So I tried to do stuff in the meantime in this last 6 months to a year. And I just realized, hey man, I'm really not getting anywhere with this. And I'm still crossing my legs and feeling that pain, even though the day before I spent time doing this and that. And yeah, it doesn't feel good. So I wanted to make some progress. So I decided to give StretchLabs a go. Now, StretchLabs is like a franchise. I pretty much gathered that. They've got different operations in different places. And basically what they do is one-on-one stretching. So you can see here, they've got the standard 50-minute stretch. They've got the maintenance 25-minute stretch, although they offered that to me as initial product as well. Then there's Normatec compression therapy, which I know nothing about and haven't tried it yet or even discussed it. And basically, you show up. So I went to the one at Dural, and you've got trained flexologists there. Now, I'm not sure how trained flexologists they are. I do think it's a franchise. And the girl there, lovely girl, Catherine, she was about 21 years old. And I did initially think she seemed a bit young, but she was trained well. She was very understanding. She was kind, and she took me through the process. But I do think that it really points out that it is a franchise model, just simply through the process. They call you, they book you in, they take your payment first, you show up, and you go through the process. Now, when I got there, there was no one there, and I looked inside, and I'm thinking, this is just like a room, like a small room. But then a girl shows up, and she walks me in, and I was like, wow, it looked a bit like this place, although I would suspect this might be an AI image, I'm not sure, or two images put together. But it was basically a room with like 6 beds, and then, you know, she got me to sign the waiver and whatnot, and then the first thing they did was do like a body scan. So the body scan looks a bit like this. And it's like a mapping assessment. You do like a squat in front of the machine. The machine looks a bit like this as I'm showing. And then afterwards you discuss what the machine found. Now the machine was pretty accurate. It found my left knee as an issue. It found my right hip as an issue. It found my right ankle as an issue. And yeah, I would have showed you that image, but it didn't actually show up. I think I typed in the wrong email address as I was doing it. But I will show you at some other point with follow-up videos. So we went through the process, and I filled in the form. I did the testing. She identified the problem areas, and then basically, you know, we went for it. I was there for about 50 minutes. First thing she did once we got started was give me some grippy socks. Basically like socks with these little, rubber pieces. I guess that's just for cleanliness and whatnot. And we started to chat. She asked me about my injuries and things. And then she started to test ranges, and ultimately it was a full body stretch. So for example, you pull your leg up and she holds it there for a while. And then you do like a P&F stretch where you resist against it for a little bit. I remember thinking when doing the P&F stretching that normally I would do this a lot harder if I was working with like a partner of my own. So she taught me that you don't necessarily need to be like tensing up so much. She focused on my breathing, and started with my legs and ultimately worked her way up into my shoulders and neck. And she was actually really, really surprised to find that my neck was super, super tight. It's like, wow, maybe you need to do more work there. And when I think about it, I do a lot of stretching on my legs and hips. By a lot, it's constant. But upper body, very rarely do I pull the shoulders back or do stuff like that. So it just reinforces that, while my hips and knees may not be the best, my shoulders and neck are actually a problem area. Yeah. So something to work on continuously, even if it's just by myself. Now, we went for the 50 minutes. She showed me the prices. The prices, pretty expensive. And I'd say that it's something that if you can afford, it would be an investment. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what happened after it. Now, I finished, and the first thing I noticed was pins and needles in my arms and shoulders. I had a fair bit of blood flow. And my lower back felt like it was on fire, but not in a bad way, just like you've done a real strong stretch. It felt like a little bit of a strain, to be honest. But super loose. And as I was, driving home, I could feel it in the body. I got home and I started to just test out my mobility a bit, and instantly I felt, I would say 10%, but I reckon it's more. Like, for example, when I'm squatting, I feel this tension that comes in a bit early. I feel like that was released. So I was able to just hold the position and feel less tension. I noticed on day one that my body felt like elastic band, and yeah, I felt a slight bit of tension in the hamstrings and whatnot. Come like the second and third day, um, I feel like if you've got injuries, for example, my neck, my knees get pains here and then. I feel like by doing this, I've actually increased the pain in the knees and in the neck. And this is something that I've noticed happens when you start to fix things. You tend to go back in time and experience the pains of the past in the process of healing up. I genuinely feel that's a process. And naturally, I think you need to be careful not to go crazy because you're loosening everything up. And then, I feel like there's a little bit of a risk. It's a little bit like when you do a Thai massage session, you're always encouraged not to go hard in training afterwards. And that's because you can like over push the muscle, maybe injure yourself, and because you're not really finding the same power that you should have. And that's something I need to really say too. The day after I went to Muay Thai, and I noticed that I didn't have as much endurance. I didn't really have as much energy. Basically, I felt like I got lactic acid buildup, but it was more a case that I think my muscles were just tired. And now it's been like 3-4 days, and I can still feel it. It feels like I've had a massive stretch in the hips, in the knees, and in the lower back. Now, otherwise, I feel really good. I feel like my body is adapting. Yeah, it was worth going, and ultimately, I'm going to keep going. I decided that I'm going to keep going and try it for 3 months as an investment, because I do think it's an investment, and I want to test it out with martial arts, and I want to test it out for my longevity and see if there's any real transfer into movement, into my rhythm. One of the things I noticed the other day when I was doing some hammer punches and some Krav Maga flow is that instantly my shattered rhythm felt a lot more like I was able to access it. And I felt like I really need to do a lot more work in my shoulders and neck, because there's certain rhythms and things in my martial art that I feel like I haven't been able to access for a long time. And in the last couple of days, I feel like it's come back to a point. Now I'm not pushing it as hard as I'd like to, only because I don't want to mess anything up. I think stuff like this, you need to give some time. And ultimately, I'm experimenting. I'm curious, and I'm going to see what happens. So, yeah, overall, my experience was good. And I've come to this conclusion that I'm going to invest in this for the next 3 months. I mean, it works out to about $110 a week Australian. But if I compare it to like a Thai massage or a physio session, I feel like it's a pretty good price. And if I get the results that I hope I get, it will be worth it. Now stick around and follow me on this journey, and I'll let you know how I go. Thank you very much. Take care. Us.